Hello and welcome to another Lord of the Rings Rise to War video. I am the player who plays as the King Under the Mountain, and today we're going to do a video on not really the state of the game so much, more of the current parts of the game that have been updated and some of the events that are on at the minute, which are actually pretty cool, I think, and probably just look at some bits and bobs around that. I am in Bag End. Yes, I am a little bit bored of Bag End. I'm going to start somewhere with the devs and think thank you, but also no thank you, because it's caused me different levels of grief, shall we say. So the first thing I'm actually going to go into is the 16 hammers that they've given. And to be honest, I get it was probably in regards to the backlash that they got because of the commander changes that they've made, and then the respect refund system and everyone going bonkers and that kind of stuff. I'll get onto that later on. But 16 hammers causes me genuine issues. One, I just use 6 hammers to set my gear. And two, it's basically led me to breaking everything that I own that's gold down. And trying to repiece some stuff back together. And this is kind of a dangerous place for me because once I've set my gear in a certain way, I don't have to think about it anymore. At the moment, I'm thinking through a million different possibilities. That changes every hour. At the moment, for example, I'm kind of looking down the route of this. So this kind of set here. I think the other set I've got on is this here. I've got this on Sauron. This is likely to change, I think. But this just this morning when I was playing around with some troop damage thoughts for him. And this on Bjorn. I'm toying with the idea of I could use an Axe of Khazad-dûm. I would lose 2.5 damage on average, but I'd gain 20 attack. I mean, it's kind of a swings and roundabouts sort of situation where I'll probably keep the 2.5 damage, to be perfectly honest. It's also led me to be doing weird and wonderful stuff, like start putting items on Gil, which I never do. And mostly, and probably the most fun that I had this morning talking about it in my head, was, where is he? Ori, and looking at a set that might work really well for Ori. Because actually, when you come and look at it, he's got the best damage skill in the game. He's got this that's pretty good for tanking. And I'm guessing it's modified by his commander defense. Not that they really say that, but I'm guessing it's that. Plus some 10% HP. And then Clerk, just hear me out, modified by command. So you're not necessarily looking for command on Ori, but I guess if you're going to build him in some kind of hybrid damage command build to maximize this sort of area, the focus increases and it's modified. But if that hits Sauron or Gandalf the White, it'd actually be pretty useful, providing you got him faster than them. So that'd be interesting. But yeah, it led to me messing around with Ori, and obviously there is a point in the heal that you'd probably put, but the Church of Ori probably still isn't for me. So the first one, devs, fantastic, 16 hammers, terrible for me. Thankfully I'm out of season because it's basically meant that I've started resetting all my gear just for fun. And then I'm just going to go into the kind of stuff that they've tried to put in for fun in the game at the moment, which, to be honest, I've kind of enjoyed to a degree. So there was the Forge of Fate event, which was all about making these 42 or something like that, 48 rings maybe. And being a bit geeky, I have made them all. I've only got 2 gold rings. Lots of purples now, but only 2 golds. I do think that was pretty fun. I don't think there's anything else really that can be said about this event, apart from the fact that it's pretty cool. It'd be nice if you could maybe, I don't know, stick them in here somewhere, maybe, unless I'm missing something. You could have a little, I don't know, little bit about that. I think it'd be quite cool. And then the other event that they've basically put in is because they've released Azog, who I should probably go into Azog first, I guess, if we're going to do that. So we've got the autumn celebrations in the Shire. They have released a new commander, which is positive, I think we'll probably say. I don't have him because I don't really think I would ever use him. There is debate over whether he should be a troop buffer or whether he should be a pure damage dealer. Probably the argument from the films and the books is he should be a pure damage dealer. But in the same way, he is the leader of the Gundabad Orcs, so I don't know, kind of a bit of both. He is very much troop support. I haven't seen much on him yet, and I haven't really looked too much on it yet. His kit, as far as support goes, looks okay, I think. but I don't think we'll really see the value of him, or whether there is a value there for a period of time, to be honest. However, pretty cool to introduce a new character. Still waiting on that Balrog. Still have the full refined Blazing Tongue. Waiting for that. So, pretty cool. Then, like I say, this event is the Autumn Celebrations in the Shire event. It has had a bit of a storyline. I won't go too far into the storyline because these storylines are always a bit cheesy, really, as far as it goes. It's got these pretty cool little individual events, like the old ones, really, but without the squares. So you're wandering your formations around. It's got a little story to tell with it, and they're all right. Worth going through if you didn't know the story, I suppose. I've kind of completed the 4 challenges already. Tomorrow's I'll complete, and then hopefully at the full set. With it came this Spoils of War package, which, if I'm being honest, the Elite one wasn't that bad for the price that it was. So you got this pretty cool looking Azog avatar, which I don't know, from a distance kind of makes me look like a fish out of water, but that might just be me. And the speech bubble, again, they don't last too many days, but again, speech bubble. It had some speed ups, had some gear. It has got a gold gear piece, which is a random drop from a chest at level 15. This background with Dwarven Gathering, which would be pretty cool. Like I say, some purple gear and more Mavens, I believe, than I think it's more Mavens than the Battle Pass now. But yeah, I thought that was reasonable for what it was. And pretty cool to see something different from them, I guess, because you sort of only really see the Season Pass at points. So I'd like to see more things like this, I think, in these little kind of side events for people to look at. With it naturally came the Azog chest, which you can put 400 Mevums into, and you get a special part if you pull him from this chest, I believe. I think you get... Does it tell you in here? It doesn't tell you in here. No, it doesn't tell you in here. So basically, you got a special kind of commemorative, not avatar, I don't think. I think it's a background if you pulled him from here, which again is pretty cool if you pull him from there. I won't be trying personally at this stage. With Bag End, we've been doing the Strive for the Herd test. Got, I think, 3 golds out of that, maybe 4 actually. And then I don't know where the normal chest's gone, but I've put a few Mavens into Heroes Gather. I don't know if this is going to be the chest going forward. I would doubt it because it hasn't got all the commanders in. So I presume when I go back in season, there'll be normal chests, unless all the chests now are going to be chests whereby you can get specific commanders, which, if that is the case, I don't think that's such a bad thing, because then you can actually narrow down your search to what you want to a degree. Food for thought on that one, I guess. So, again, pretty cool chest for Bag End. What else was there that they've introduced lately? So we've got all the things like forts that I've been doing lately, changes to forts, where you can now change your commanders in forts, not just tactical forts, and your troop type, which I think's added a lot more flexibility to the game. And I think as well, if I'm being honest, it's kind of made it more 1.0 than 2.0. So I was sort of talking through a scenario the other day whereby you could be fighting on 2 different sides of the map, for example. And you could have done that anyway, I guess, for a tactical fort and just your keep on one side. But you could now have your keep pretty much in the middle. You could have 2 or 3 forts on one front. You could have your tactical fort on the other. And you could fly your main between wherever it's needed via eagles, and then change the troops once you get there at either location. Which I think adds some different warfare and perhaps will not necessarily stop, but it may prevent some of the tile warfare that perhaps we've seen in between supply lines, because you'll be able to get your main commanders there, if not necessarily troops, which will be the harder one to do. So I guess you might still see that play, but you're not likely to get your main stopped, I guess, if you use the other method. You'll still have to keep routes open to get troops across, which I think is quite a good sort of dynamic to the game. I do think the game's in quite a good place at the moment. I'm going to come on to the voucher system in a minute, because I know my opinion on it's a little bit different to some others. But first of all, I'm just going to go into this. So I probably would at the moment advise, if I had players that no longer played that I knew, I would perhaps be asking them if they want to come back. Obviously, you could be slightly sneaky and use one of your ults and get these. I'm not necessarily saying that, but you could. But yeah, so I think it's a good time to try and get people back into the game. This is also pretty cool. You can try and win some Lego at the moment, which everyone loves Lego no matter what age you are. And I think there was an announcement about Rings of Power. I don't know if they tried to link it to the series while it's on or not, but so I believe Kingdoms is going to have some new ring buffs, which again is pretty cool. It'd be nice to see some different things. They've sort of shaped it around the 9 mortal men rings. I think is probably what the text said. So hopefully the old Doomed to Die people will supply some different stuff in season, because I think that's one of the things that people are crying out for, is sort of a new season type or new season dynamics. I think the new map's good. The only thing I don't really like about the new map is it was clearly designed by someone who likes elves, because they put a backdoor into Erebor and removed the backdoor from Grey Havens. And I don't know why you do that, but there you go. But yeah, I do like the new map and new dynamics. So I just think it's quite a good time. I think the game's in a good state. I think there's a lot of positivity around the game. The next point I'm probably going to go on to is these refund vouchers, because I think I probably differ to some others on them. So every commander got one of these. It's a special item, and you, providing your commander is above respect 4, you could get 10 items out of them, sort of, or as much to get them back to respect 4 from wherever you were. That's 10 items per commander you owned in the game. I know there's a lot of talk around these, and I know people wanted them to be universal, and I kind of get the reasoning why, but as far as I can see from the PvE, and I'm sure things will change over a period of time. They've added some command to commanders, which I think is really good. I think it's sensible. People like Falcon, I think, have had a massive benefit from the command instead of the commander defense, which didn't really mean that you could ever sort of streamline his kit. So I think that's good. But because not really a great deal changed, I'm not so sure why people thought they were going to get universal vouchers. And if they were going to go down the route of universal vouchers, you'd have never have got one per every commander, because you could have literally just reset your entire account, and even, low spenders themselves probably could have whaled into 2 or 3 Z level comms, maybe not Z level, but high respect comms. And I think you've got to look at it as the general spend in the game. People do need to spend in these games for them to kind of exist, and I get people's anger around it, but if, for example, with me, if I had this kind of offer and I could get universal vouchers, I'd be able to set 6 or 7 commanders up in the Z levels, and I'm only kind of in a whale level of account, I would say. And I wouldn't really ever need to spend again, apart from on some sort of gear thing. So I do get why they've tried to do it. I think they've tried to do something that's helpful. I understand people's opinion around, we got full 0 resets for healing commanders when they changed the dynamic, but I think that was more because it was bugged than it basically wasn't working as they expected, as opposed to it was because it was new. I think was my kind of terminology on it, so I can kind of see why they've done the different thing. I think the most recent updates were really good around respect levels, so you now only need to be respect 4 to basically unlock all your skill trees. I'll just try and show that. So do I have anyone at respect 4? Yeah, I do. There you go. So now Aragon is respect 4. I can now use what used to be the R5s and R4, and I think that's a great change for free-to-play players in particular. You can try out more commanders. It costs you less money to get them there and try out their skill set. I do think that's a really good change. Am I happy that my Dwalin has gone up to some stupid level? I've seen some ridiculous stuff like Z6 Dwalins and things. So yeah, it might make them more playable, and the change in the way the voucher worked in regards to adding respect to these tier 1 and tier 2 commanders, with it now being worth more, I think it's a great change, because I think over a period of time you will see people trying out more tier 1 and tier 2 commanders. So for example, I know Raven, for example, next season is planning on running Azog, who is a tier 1 damage dealer, who everyone kind of thought we're never going to be able to get to the Z levels to really unlock his true potential. I think he's already got him Z3 now. So it'll be interesting to see how those kind of commanders interact. So I do think there's lots of positives about the most recent update. I'm currently using my refunded respect from commanders to boost Saruman to R10 because he took the biggest buff, I would say, from the PBE with this Head of the White Council skill, which I think is a brilliant skill, by the way, and probably perfect for what Evil need to strip White Council. Ironic from the Head of the White Council, I suppose. But that will take a period of time because I can only refund the vouchers and then refund the respect items at a third of the price until 10 per week because of the store reset. So it's going to take me 2 or 3 weeks to get him up to where I want him to be. And that will lead me to my next point about uniques. So the unique only being 10 to unlock now, this whole 10 is brilliant because I think you can now have more uniques and more commanders if you want them. When they've refunded the mithril from the other commanders I had, I've now basically given Dane a full refined unique, which I'm pretty happy about, to be honest. I think that'll be well invested mithril, but I've still got the others, but now the 10, you can try out a lot more possibilities, which I think is really good, and good for free-to-play players as well, because it's nice to have the uniques. And I don't think there was a lot else that I could kind of think of. I personally don't mind the vouchers that they've done. I think if I look at it logically, if I hadn't had the vouchers, I'd just have dead respect in a lot of the comms that I no longer use. So I don't really use any of these guys here. I may start using Gil again, I hate to say it, but I don't really use any of these guys here. So to being able to take 10 items from all of them and then reinvest them at a third, it's better than nothing, to be perfectly honest. And if the meta and the actual game itself, which people are saying hasn't really changed, then it was kind of something for nothing, which I thought was quite nice. I know there's a lot of talk around things happening with that where it might end up being more than what they've currently offered to us all. But for now, I'm pretty happy anyway, to be honest. My temptation is to do a gear video at some stage, rebuilding all my stuff. The other thing that they've done, which is quite interesting actually, I'd forgotten about this, which isn't pure gameplay, it's aesthetics again. So they have updated this a little bit. If it loads, it does normally load a lot faster than this. So they've updated it a little bit so you can mess around with your own stuff and you can post things and such like. But in the same way, you can now get points. And as always with these things, points make prizes. You can read through all these at your leisure. I'm not going to go through them now. And you can redeem them against gems, to be honest, which is pretty good. It's a free-to-play player if you're active in here, and you can get 200 gems every time you get 2,000 points. You're going to do pretty well. You can get some respect items, get some purple gear. You can get some pretty cool-looking avatars, like this Sauron's Gaze. I'd like that, to be fair. And then you can also get these, which I believe are permanent, rather than just the 30-day ones. Which again, it's just something nice that they've sort of added in. Yes, I get it's aesthetics, but I think it's good that they've been adding to the game. And I think they've done a lot of positive changes lately. The gameplay itself feels a lot better than when 2.0 was launched. I think a lot of the mechanics are now starting to work pretty well. And to be honest, I know people say the meta hasn't really changed. I really think some of it will over a period of time when people actually research a lot more into different commanders. So I'm trying to do quite a lot of work at the moment, for example, into Mouth of Sauron, because now that he scales off command, I do think there's a place in the meta for Mouth of Sauron. So, if you're running, say, what I was thinking in my head was something like a Sauron, Mouth of Sauron, Witch King, and not necessarily a Scalhelm, something like that maybe, or a Sistaro or a Saruman. So this attack from sides isn't really mattering because you're using focus damage, and if you had some troops in there, sort of like an alchemist style troop or a Morgul Arbalist, I think there's probably something you can do against the meta. And as well, if people are using Gil, I think this is a great skill to counter some of the damage that comes back at you from Gil. And this also sort of counters that Gil dynamic. if you're taking hits from the gill formation when you can't hit them, yes, your white counts go disappear, but they ain't doing too much to you. And with it taking effect in the first 3 rounds, if you are slow enough to be behind the gill, potentially round 3 lets you catch up. Whereas with this, their skills like the Durin's Blood skill that will go off in this round will be massively hindered by this debuff of attack, particularly if the Witch King hits as well and Sauron hits as well. But I'm out of season, so I can't really test that. But I just think that was just an example of things that I think could work. And if you actually read through a lot of the stuff, Legolas has got better. I do think some of the reworks have been positive. I know some of it, I think people feel hasn't been as positive as what they wanted, but I think over time, if we just test different things, lots will become apparent to us that we can use them. It's nice to see Gil being able to be used again. It feels like a sort of season 1 and season 2. He was never bad anyway. I hate to say it, but I believe there's a lot of talk now around him being sort of in that meta tier again, where he was for such a long time. So that was kind of everything really I wanted to touch on. I probably will do, like I say, a gear video now. I've broke it down. I do think the fact that we got 16 hammers was fantastic. I've got a lot of stuff in here that is giving me palpitations about. I've got a lot of stuff in here, and I've still got my Nazgul necklace and my book on how to grow crops, and apparently my food guide. So with that, really, I'd love to see some comments about what people thought. I get the vouchers weren't what people were necessarily asking for, but it was something for potentially nothing from what I've heard from people about how the meta's not really changed. So I think all really universal items would have probably reinforced that meta with people having higher respect comms in those sort of combinations, really. Would I like to see some changes? Of course I would, and I think I'll do a separate video on what I'd like to see. One example would be sort of like a battle simulator in Bag End, where you could potentially set up your formation and you can hit whatever you want and just change it like a battle calculator, and it just spews out a battle report, for example. I think that'd be pretty cool. But for now, I'm pretty happy with the game. I'm looking forward to a new season, hopefully in a couple of weeks. I believe we're going to try and join a TE. I don't think there's any secretism about that. I think we're probably going to go into the next TE that's opens up, mainly because I think it's now at the moment the most balanced server. So that'll be pretty cool. Looking forward to it. Bag End always nice to recharge. I actually sleep properly, which is nice. But as always, if in doubt, always follow your nose.